Hello, second grade. Today we are going to conduct the very last part of our investigation for solids in water. Now remember, you can go back and watch the previous videos to remind yourself of what happened and what changes were made when these solids were mixed with water. And in the very last video, we took the solids out of the water to see what changes had happened. We discovered that some solids got soft, some solids changed and got bigger, some solids kind of stayed the same. But after that, we let the solids outside of the water for some time overnight to see if anything will happen, if there will be more changes made to it. So today I'm going to show you the new changes that happens when solids are taken out of water and left overnight. So let's begin. The first solid we're going to take a look at is the raisins. Now I left the raisins outside of the bag overnight, and this is what happened. As you can see, the raisins, when I press on it, it's still very soft and very mushy. But look what happened to the water that was inside. It dried up a little bit, it became still. It's not moving and flowing like we normally know water to be. It's very sticky too. The color of the water is still like a darkish color from when the raisins were mixed with it, but we can see the raisins didn't go back to normal like it was before. It stayed very mushy. Okay, but we did see that there were some new changes that were left when we took the solids out of the water and left it overnight. Let's see if there were any changes to our mung beans. Next up are the mung beans. Now the mung beans, they did not go back into the green outer layer that they had before. We still have this little sprout that's out. But I can say, it's hard to tell on camera, but I can say that it did return to its hard state. So remember at the beginning our mung beans were green and hard, and then when I first took it out of the water, it was pretty mushy. It was very soft. I could press down on it. But this time, it's getting a little harder because the water is no longer in the plate anymore. This one is pretty hard too. Oh, it popped off the plate. So we can see that our mung beans have made some changes too. Not a whole lot, but we see a little bit of change that happens when we have our solids that are taken out of water. Now let's see the rice next. Okay, here is our rice out of water that was left overnight. And the rice is definitely back to its hard state that it was in before. The water is no longer in the bowl at all. It evaporated or dried up. I must say that the smell from this experiment is not very pleasant, but it's very cool to see that the rice did make some changes that makes it look like it did when we first started. Let's try to see what happened to the popsicle stick next. Next up, we have the popsicle stick. And it looks like it did when we had just started our experiment. There is absolutely no water inside of this plate at all. All of the water dried up and evaporated, and the popsicle stick had little to no changes to it too. The popsicle stick, it's not wet anymore. It's actually very dry, and I could probably use it for a craft right now because it went back to the same way it was when we first started our experiment. Isn't that interesting? Let's find out what happened to our last solid, the mint. Remember, the mint had disappeared or dissolved when we put it in water overnight. So did it come back? to life? Let's watch and see. Look what I have here. Nothing. I put the mint liquid inside of a plate and left it overnight, and it evaporated. That means it turned into gas and went up into the sky. So now I have nothing left in the plate. The mint didn't even come back into its regular form. Boys and girls, we see from our investigation this week that sometimes solids can change when mixed with water. And then some of those changes are reversible. That means they can turn back into its first original state. And some are irreversible, which means that it doesn't go back to its original state. So I want you to think about this and discuss, and also record this in your notebook or your Google slide for future reference.